So basically, my name's Arthur Vachon, and I'm a West Michigan resident, born and raised. Had 4 years in the Army. I am 46 years old and pretty much lived in Wyoming, Michigan my entire life. Proud father of two boys, ages 16 and 19. My 19-year-old just joined me as a real estate agent, so he works directly with me now, which is phenomenal. And by the way, it's the best retention program ever because he has to work for me, therefore he has to report to me. So just a little food for thought.
Love it.
But no, he's working directly with me. My 16-year-old's a junior at Granville High School, which has been pretty interesting because COVID kicked in his sophomore year, so half his sophomore year, and so far all of his junior year has been very different. But he's kind of a homebody anyways, so it doesn't seem to be impacting him that much.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, they go through all this stuff, and it's like, they're tough. That's the upside of them.
Right.
I don't recommend bouncing any of them, but
Right.
they don't come back up. All right, so let me ask you. You've been in the game for a while.
Yep.
You got a 19-year-old, right? So
Yep.
you know a thing or two because you've seen a thing or two, right?
Absolutely.
So let me ask you, with that, what do you feel like? What have you learned most about yourself since becoming a father?
I mean, honestly, it's been my greatest honor to be a dad. I grew up my mom was single for a while, and then she married when I was 10 years old. So I had a stepfather, a father figure. And that honestly, it was great. He was a great provider, great man, but didn't really even blossom until I went into the Army. So I kind of learned along the way. They don't have an instruction manual for being a dad. So I kind of leveraged, what my biological father did and what my stepfather did, and just kind of adapted and did the best I could. They're still alive, so I must be doing something right. Like I said, my 19-year-old's a realtor now, so he's kind of following in my footsteps. And 16-year-old, he's probably gonna run the world one day. So, but as far as what I've learned about, or what I guess how it's impacted me the most, is it just really taught me the value of being a father, being there, being present in anything and everything that they're doing. It doesn't matter if they're building a Lego car or talking about girls or whatever it is. It's really cool to be a part of that. So for me, I just learned how much I really do enjoy being part of their lives.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I guess with that, what would you say is the most rewarding thing about being a dad for you then? Like,
I'm ex-military, so respect is a big thing for me. Just knowing that I've raised them right, knowing that they do respect me. They may not agree with everything I say, and they may not like my rules from time to time, but there's respect, and it's earned, with them. Like, I give them the same amount of respect they give me. I give them the same amount of distance they give me. So, I think that really is the biggest part of it for me.
Nice. Now they say, there's a myth out there, right? So I've got two girls, and that's kind of my realm right there, and they're younger. There's a myth out there that boys are like dragons; they're hard to tame. Can you back that theory up? Is that a thing? Like, do you feel like, were your boys a challenge to raise? Like, were they getting into things? Do you feel like they're just, way more out there than probably the typical kid? Like, how do you feel that went?
Honestly, I don't. I have been truly blessed. Like, when I say I have like the greatest kids ever, I truly mean that. Like, they're just good kids. They know right from wrong. They treat everybody fairly. They're just good human beings, and that is huge. Like, it's something that tugs at me all the time, because I know I must have done something, and we've done something right in order to raise men like that they do respect their elders, and they do, open the doors for people. And that's just huge to me, just to know that I was able to pass that on. As a father, that was something that I just instilled in them, is the respect. And just as an example, the other night, my son was running up the steps, and I thought there was something wrong. So, anyone father, get down here. I need to talk to you. And he said, what? And I said, you will never what me again. Get your, you know what, down here. And turned out he was just in a rush. He just had a bunch of stuff he needed to do. And it was just, there was nothing wrong, but knowing that and he'd probably say the opposite of this, but just the fact that I was willing to stop him in his tracks and say, what's wrong with you? What's going on? Because I am concerned and I am, interested in what's happening in his life. My 16-year-old doesn't share a lot with me because he's just at that age where I don't know anything, so. But as far as boys, no, I've been very blessed. They've been great. I'm sure they get into trouble and they do things that I don't know about because we all did that. But for the most part, I've been pretty fortunate.
Not me. I was
yeah, right. The only thing I can say is I'm a car nut, and so is my 19-year-old. So my 19-year-old has the addiction that I have, and he may or may not have gotten himself into a little bit of trouble with some of his fast cars. But that's probably something I shouldn't have taught him.
Hey, you know what? I literally my daughter was, I think she was 1, and I tried putting her under the car with me while I was changing oil. So I tried getting her brainwashed early too. So we'll see.
Some get it, some don't. My 16-year-old could care less.
Yeah, that's how it is sometimes, man. So Let me ask you this, because in the realm of like raising kids, in the world that we live in right now, it's different. Like it's just different. I remember, one of my biggest things was like riding my bike. Like that used to be, and now you have situations where it's like, oh yeah, my phone and my internet and my Segway, whatever you call it, hoverboards, right? Like you got all this like random stuff out there now. What do you feel like, if you had to sum it up, what's your biggest fear for your children in the world that we live in today, with all the advancements, with all the changes, with all the craziness? Like, what's your biggest fear for your kiddos?
Outside of the 1 o'clock in the morning phone call that they're in a ditch somewhere and that sort of thing, because they are driving, and that outside of that, I would say maybe more for my 16-year-old is the fact that they're heavily involved in their social media stuff and TikToks and Instagrams and all the different things that are out there, which are great, but there's such a negative energy that comes with that. My fear is that maybe one or both of them fall into something that they can't get out of and don't know how to, get out from under that. Because I get it. There's an age like my 16-year-old where, maybe doesn't want to tell me everything that's going on in his life, and that's fine. And I was the same way. I was probably way worse at it than he is. But just knowing that or I guess maybe realizing that they don't understand that they can come to me with anything, judgment free. I'm gonna just sit down and figure it out, and we'll go from there. So I guess my worst fear is that they don't bring that to me when they could. So because I've heard horror stories of a friend of mine whose son was dealing with some issues and unfortunately committed suicide because he just didn't know how to deal with that, and like that scares the hell out of me. So
dang.
Kids these days, they just don't know how to deal with things, right? And they've been a part of the gaming culture, so they just hit the reset button. That's just
that's so true, though.
It's scary because they just don't value life like we did. I was definitely afraid if the lights came on and it was night and I wasn't home. My mom was gonna whip my butt.
Oh, that's so true. My mom literally would fortunately, I've never allowed her the opportunity to take advantage of it, but she would literally walk down. She'd walk down there with a belt. Hey, you see these lights on? So, it's a different generation. But let me ask you this, because as time goes on, you think to yourself, okay, I've got well-rounded kids, right? What do you feel like, what lessons do you feel like you got or learned in your life to get you to the point where you are, to pass that information on to your kids, to have them be where they are in life? Because when you think about it, typical, you want to talk about back in the day, typical man is like, you do this, you do this, you do this, you don't cry, you rub dirt in it, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Right? The idea, the concept of even being emotionally available, or what they would call it, back in the day, soft.
Right.
That's not even something that was fathomable for me. If you show that kind of weakness, you're probably getting beat up, right? You're
Right.
probably getting picked on the most because you're the softest. So
Right.
how do you feel like you've navigated that level of energy and gotten to the place as a man where you make yourself emotionally available for your kids to say, hey, I what's going on? Like you're saying earlier, hey,
Mhm.
what's going on? I'm here. I'm available. You can talk to
Mhm.
me. I'm not gonna judge you. I'm not gonna give you this tough exterior to where you feel like you can't even get in the door and talk to me.
I mean, I think that starts day one, just being present, just being there with them, being a positive influence in their life, and knowing, um, or at least conveying to them that they can share anything with you at any point in time. I mean, it obviously, if they're doing wrong, then there will be consequences for that. But
Yeah.
I used to let my kids choose their punishment. If they did something, you'd be surprised too. I read it somewhere. If you let them choose it, their punishment is 10 times worse than what you're gonna issue them.
Huh.
So,
That's
um,
interesting.
we've just been super blessed. We haven't had that. We haven't had a whole lot of that. I can't even think of a time where I had to put them over my knee or anything like that. They just I think it just starts from day one. And if you didn't start day one, start today. Just literally just let them know, like, hey, I'm your father, but I'm also your friend, and I am concerned that you're going to make bad decisions, and there's nothing you can tell me that's going to make me love you any less. So
Yep.
make sure you're telling me what's going on. I mean, I found out stuff. It was kind of funny. I won't get into details, but stuff that my 19-year-old was doing in high school when he was not 18. I mean, he was 17, 16 years old doing some crazy stuff. And
Right.
he finally admitted it to me, but I just smiled and laughed. I mean, he made it through whatever he was doing. And I was like, I feel, I kind of want to be mad because I'm your dad, but at the same point, I appreciate that you could tell me this now.
Right.
You're an adult. I can't do anything about it now, but
Right.
I'm going to slap you upside the head, but I didn't.
Well, I feel like there's a balance, right? Because there's like, you want to find that nice equal point between
Mhm.
being a good parent and kind of not being a hypocrite,
Right.
right? Because it's like, obviously you don't want your kids to follow the bad things you've done. I
Sure.
don't want my kids to do anything that I did as a kid.
Sure. Sure.
Except for go to school. But it's like, you gotta, you at that point you end up setting the standards of, okay, this is the way it should be. This is a healthier way to go about life. This so I say all that to say, just curious, where do you feel like you got that structure from? Like, how was your relationship with your dad?
Again, mine was kind of weird because my biological father wasn't present
Hmm.
for a long time. I mean, he was, but it was on again, off again.
And what age was that?
Until my mom married, I think I said I was 10, but technically I was just about to turn 10 when she married,
Okay.
remarried. And so I didn't really have that. I had Disneyland dad. I had the dad that I would go visit on every other weekend, and
Yeah.
one weekend a summer or something. And it was just always just fun, just go there, fun. And looking back on that, it was tough for my mom because she had me the rest of the time and taking care of business. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I was excited to go see him because we got to go play and do crazy things. But then Gary, my stepdad, came along, and there was this man present in the house all the time. And it was super weird for me because I was the man of the house, I was just a kid, but
Yeah.
he's there. And so there was just a really interesting dynamic. And I guess I take from both of them, like I can be Disneyland dad, but I can also be super structured.
Yeah.
And I've always I've always instilled in both of my boys. I put the energy into them that if you have something you want to do, like if you truly have something you want to do and it isn't going to harm you or others, don't even let me tell you no. Like, because growing up in an environment where you can't do that, or you probably shouldn't do that, or whatever, there's so many things that I probably could have done or should have done or would have done, but I didn't because I had that. And so for me, it was a learning curve of, don't let me ever tell you you can't do something.
Yeah.
Because if I'm saying that, it's probably because I can't do it, but you might be capable.
Solid.
So I really push that on these kids. Like, do what you want. Do how. I mean, my youngest, he was in varsity drumline as a freshman, and I wanted to push him harder. Like, I wanted him on the drum kit, just going crazy. But really, he's got his own path and his own pace, and this is what he wants to do, and he's killing it. I couldn't be prouder of him for that. And same with Caleb. He's got his own mindset. He really didn't want to go to college, and it was always in our thoughts, like, hey, we'll help you with college, or whatever, put you on that path. And he just came to me and said, I've learned from you. You never went to college, and you're a success. I want to follow in your footsteps, and I don't feel like I have to get a formal education in order to do that. I want to start now, and the kid first year in the business, like, it took me 3 years to hit the level that he's at right now.
Nice.
I mean, he's 19 years old, killing it. So I love it. I absolutely love it. And that's what he wants to do. And he's got a whole thing even further beyond that of what he wants to do in investments and different things. I love it. I love sitting back and watching, because it was almost like this little, scientific experiment that it's working. Holy cow.
I think that's amazing. I mean, clearly the kid's got a good head on his shoulders to be even thinking of that, and to be, the way you're describing him, to be at this level, this age, and to like have his head on to the point where he's thinking about investing and winning at the age that he is. I mean, that's a setup for a great future. So let me ask you this. I mean, in my situation, obviously, I'm divorced. I got divorced last year, or two years, a year ago. I don't know. I got divorced recently.
Okay.
And I felt like one of the biggest issues was going to be for me and my kid's mom was that it was going to be an issue for us to parent, because I felt like our parenting styles might actually butt heads. And I feel like one of the best things that has come out of it is that we are, though we didn't work great as a couple, as parents together, we are a united front on that.
That's awesome.
That's one of my favorite things about, our dynamic. With your kids, how do you feel like that was for you? Like, how do you feel like that whole situation, that experience went?
Like for my wife and I?
Yeah.
So, they always say opposites attract.
Mm-hmm.
And that is 1,000,000% true with the both of us.
Okay.
So she led a very structured, I can't say shelter because that sounds bad, but a very structured, balanced life. And dad, went to work at this time, was home at this time, and they ate dinner at this time, and everything was very mapped out and structured. And I think that's amazing, because I never had that. Even in the military, it was chaos, just chaos. So it's probably why I'm a good real estate agent, because I can just a million things being thrown at me. And so the difference between her and I is so polar opposite that I think it works. A good example is I have two boys. Boys like to wrestle. They like to fight. They like to do that sort of stuff.
Yep.
If she was present, no, stop. You're not fighting. I don't like violence, blah, blah, blah. I'm ex-military. I'm like MMA fighting, just, dropping elbows, like, let's do this. So, so I was all about them getting that out, and it wasn't like I was literally going to let them hurt each other.
Right.
Just part of growing up as a boy. Like, you have to learn those things. Like, I'll take them shooting. She doesn't like guns. So, I mean, there's just a huge difference. But I think if anything, it has rounded them to the men that they are today, because they see both sides of the spectrum. So, nice. And it's not something I'm going to take them out and do something crazy and get them hurt. But like Caleb and I, my oldest, we just bought snowmobiles, just old snowmobiles.
Let's go.
On her side, it's dangerous, and we probably shouldn't do that. On my side, it's like, send it. Let's go. This will be fun.
Go. I love it. So, I love it.
But I've adapted the mantra a long time ago that we only get one ride on this rock, and you need to make it worth it. So do all the things, try all the things, experience all the things. Just to me, that's what life's about. I don't ever want to cross that finish line saying I wish I would have or could have. I'm just going to do it all. And
Yeah.
if it affects my family in a negative way, then I'll stop doing it. But otherwise, I'm gonna try it all, man.
That's solid, man. Yeah, I think that's one of the best ways to go about it. Now, do you feel like, how do I say this? Do you feel like you are, as far as like the relationships that your kids build, the energy, do you feel like that comes from what you have instilled in them, or do you feel like that's possibly something that's just in them, their DNA?
I I, I kind of would say maybe it's a little bit of both. The the balance between my wife and I and how they handle people, it's super interesting to watch. So Caleb is the salesman, Carson is the analyst,
That's what I was
and
yeah.
it's really neat because the older one does have some of those traits and the younger one has some of the other traits, but you can see what's more prevalent in their way they process or the way they think through things. Caleb will go up and talk to anyone, anytime, anywhere about anything. Like Carson's a little more reserved and will study you and make you feel very uncomfortable when he's just like,
right. Oh,
but
shoot.
they both have their place in society. They're both be able to do amazing things.
Okay. Now I'm gonna ask you this because this is gonna be one of those things, right? You don't get to take this back.
All right.
What's something that you did as a kid that you would never want your kids to do?
Jeez.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I don't know. I can think of a million things. I guess the biggest thing is, when we were kids, my buddies and I would hop on our bikes and just disappear and be back home when streetlights came on, doing whatever, wherever, however, getting into all kinds of mischief.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was the wiser. It never happened. It was just our good time and whatever. When Caleb, my oldest son, was 3 or 4 years old, I bought him a 50cc dirt bike.
Nice.
Which is nuts, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
My wife was terrified.
Of course.
I bought him a cell phone because he would ride up and down the sidewalk, but I didn't want him to go around the corner and break down and not be able to get a hold of me. So I had a 4-year-old with a cell phone on a 50cc dirt bike, which sounds insane.
That sounds hilarious, yeah.
But in my brain, I couldn't let him go down to the end of the damn road without a cell phone in his pocket. So, I think that's the difference between the way I was, the way I was raised and the way that they were raised.
Yeah. No,
crazy world.
It is. It's crazy and it's scary, because things are different, right? Like the idea, like I watch my kids. I have my house surveillance stuff. Like there's cameras on every corner, and I let my kids go out and play. I try not to be that helicopter parent, so I still let my girls go out and play, but the display is on. So,
right.
As soon as they turn that corner, I got them on the next camera and I can see where they are at every time. Like I'm like that. But I think about it because obviously when we were growing up, the situation was the same. Like you said, I was pretty much the same way. I got on my bike. I remember getting up especially the summer morning. As soon as summer hit, you get on your bike, all you and your friends, and boom, you're out. And you come back, whatever time. It's like, how did we even eat? Like we didn't even think about it. It was just like we went all day. We were just gone.
Right.
Where'd the food come from? Like it was so.
Think about if your parents even. I mean, I know they cared, but even showed like concern. Like they were just like, "Yeah, have fun. See ya.
Yeah.
Get home for dinner."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And in the world we live in now, it's just not that. I can't imagine a world where my kid, hops on a bike and goes off, and it's just gone all day without any kind of communication. Because for me, I don't know about you, but I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have a way to communicate. I didn't have a beep or page or anything like that. I didn't have a way to communicate. So when I was gone, it's
right.
I was a victim of the world at that point. You figure it out. But I say all that just because I'm wondering, do you feel like how do you feel like it would have went if you were raising your kids in the generation that you came from?
Probably similar. I mean, we didn't know any better. We didn't know any different. So, um, I don't know. It's almost like every generation progressively gets like tighter reins on their kids and just
Yep.
continuously giving them restrictions and guidelines. And I like that they have their freedom. I like that my youngest has his driver's license now and he can go disappear. Am I concerned? Yes. Do I want to know when he's arrived at his stop? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I don't think it is. I mean, if anything, it shows that I cared. Like I honestly, and this will sound horrible, I didn't think my parents gave a shit if I existed or not.
So true.
They're like, oh, he's
Yeah,
home.
I wish you.
Don't
Yeah.
you want to go spend the night at one of your friends' house? So,
Just get out of the house.
yeah.
Oh shoot. Yeah.
So I don't know. I probably would have done the same. I probably would have, that was just the way it was.
Yeah.
So, now I don't know what it's going to be like. Like I was just thinking about this today. At some point they're going to marry and they're going to have kids and then I'm going to be that grandparent. Heaven forbid I have a granddaughter because game over. Like she's going to be the most spoiled, anything you want, probably going to have the red hair and I'm just going to be like, okay, here you go. So,
I love it.
she'll have me wrapped around her finger. She already has me wrapped around her finger. It doesn't even exist.
Doesn't even exist yet. I love it. I know. That's so I do feel like part of me goes, look, when I get to that age, ooh, sugar these kids up and send them home.
The beauty is though, and I remember my parents saying this, it's nice that you can hand them back. So.
Yep. No, I feel you there. Cause my girl's the same way. Granddad comes over every time. He's got sweets and snacks and all these random things. Like, I see it. So, oh man. So, do you feel like, and this might be an odd question, do you feel like, like you said, you see ya, bye, catch you when you get home from your folks, right? Do you feel like you would ever allow, like the way you live, right? Do you feel like you would ever allow for there to be a moment where, I guess a better way to ask this is, how do you find the balance between giving them their freedom and not making them feel like you don't care? Does that make sense? Like you want to give them, you want to loosen the reins up enough to be like, all right, do your thing, but not enough to be like, oh shit, Dad didn't even say things like, what the hell? I've been gone all day, Dad. How do you feel like you find that balance?
I think, I mean, it's going to be dependent on the kid themselves. Some kids are just super independent. My youngest, I actually believe if I left like a couple $100 and left for a month, he would be fine. He'd figure it out. Yeah. He's just self-sufficient. He always has been. Even as a child, he kind of did his own thing and he's good. My oldest, I think, well, probably not so much now because he's got his girlfriend and he's always gone anyways. But for a while there, I was like, man, go do something. Like, just get out there. And then he did. And of course, I regretted.
Yeah, naturally.
I think the kids themselves will kind of let you know, really. Like, I feel like they're gonna give you hints that they need you or don't need you in their life. And I would never want to be an overbearing, overprotective parent. Like, to me, that's just smothering them and it's going to push them out the house.
Yeah.
I left my house at 17 years old and was in the Army and I was gone.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to leave. Like, for me, I just could not wait to start life and go out and do my thing.
Now, was that because you were just an adventurous person, like you were ready to go, or was it like you felt like you were being suffocated in the house?
Probably a little bit of both. Like, I don't like rules, so I joined the Army, which makes no sense.
So true.
I
don't like people telling me what to do. Let's join the military.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I needed my own path. I needed to do my own thing. And I probably was a little more on the self-sufficient side of things. I was one of the, whatever they call latchkey kids.
Yeah.
My
Yep.
parents worked all the time, and I would come home and I'd be home for hours on end, and then they would have dinner and go to bed and rinse and repeat. And
Yeah.
so I was pretty self-sufficient for a long time. I was looking for an opportunity to go travel and do things and see things. And, I did more by the time I was 21 than probably most people will do in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And I don't regret it at all. I think it was a phenomenal experience. And it made me who I am today. So, I don't know where we're going with that, by the way.
The reason I ask is because I try to think of like the differences in the, because kids are different. Like I have, my youngest is more of my softie, but she's also got this like weird aggression thing. So she's a little bit of everything. Like she'll cry, but she'll also, stick up for everybody and try to,
Right.
And then my oldest one, she's more mature, more reserved, more quiet, but she's just, and I try to find like where in the middle, where does that, is it just a genetic thing or personality wise, or does the way I and their mom treat them cause that? Right? Like, is it just because, are we doing too much in the house? Are they going to feel like, okay, we need to get away from this? How does that affect them? Is that going to be the thing that, because then if you know that that's the case, how do you navigate that? Right? You know that that's the thing that's going to, like you said, it's kind of a little bit everything for you. It's kind of your personality, but also at the same time, you're kind of like, all right, I need my space. So if it were heavier on one side, let's say it was, they just let you do your thing and wasn't, blah, blah, blah. Do you feel like you would have gone into the military? Like,
yeah,
just
I would have.
things like those. Oh, you would have.
Yeah, it was just a course that I didn't even realize this, but in probably right around the time my mom remarried, and I was all about the military. I didn't even realize it, but
Nice.
I had the camouflage and I had my fake guns, and we'd go out and play war. And it didn't even register in my brain. My path was I was going to be an architect living in Chicago, dating supermodels. That was going to be my path. That was what I planned. So fortunately, that didn't play out, and now I'm a real estate agent married to a supermodel. So,
there you go. There you go. I love it.
But yeah, I just, there was something inside of me. My mom actually told me this later in life. She goes, I always knew you were going to join the military. And I didn't even know that. I didn't know that till I was a junior in high school, that it was even something I would consider.
Wow.
It was just a really good opportunity for me at that time. It's a lot different now, honestly, than when I joined. I joined delayed entry in 1991. So it was just different. I had to graduate high school still, and we were kind of in between wars. And so it was, it was just a better time for me to experience that. But I would have made that choice regardless, I think. It was something that was in me that I needed to do and do for myself, and create my own path. I'm an independent person that way.
Yeah.
So I think kids are going to kind of know their path,
Yeah.
I mean, I won't know what they want to do for a career, but they're going to know where they want to be in life. And it does have to do with your upbringing. I mean, we're a product of our environment. So, they're going to follow the path that you kind of lead them down. They may deviate a little bit, but really, truly, I think we all become our parents eventually, or a version of our parents.
Yeah.
So, I already noticed I started hoarding things. I don't know how that started, but
I'm not gonna lie. I will say I've heard some stuff come out of my mouth that my mom says, and I'm going, oh Lord, here we go.
Yep.
Here we go. So let me ask you this. As let me put it in this context. As a younger version of yourself, you're a younger version of yourself. You're watching this interview right now.
Mm-hmm.
What's one thing that you feel like you would tell yourself, as far as like in preparation to becoming a father or husband, or just the package of it all? It's one bit of advice, I should say, you'd give yourself.
I mean, there are no rules really. Like, feed them, house them, love them, take care of them. but just do the best you can. Like literally, my kids have become my priority in life. I could have taken a million different paths. I could have done a million different things, but I was blessed to be their father.
Yeah.
And I take that seriously. It is a very serious thing. I don't take it with a grain of salt. And
Absolutely.
my wife and I have pushed through hard times, to keep things moving forward and to keep these kids growing positively and growing in a good environment. And I want that legacy for them to be uh, something good in society, a good person, do something good. And it could be so small. It could help one person do something, but they were on that path. They were set on that path to do something amazing. And that's all I really wanted for them, is just to do that. So any sacrifices that I've made, I don't regret at all.
Okay.
Because it was for them. There will become a point in my life where, and it's getting there already, where my oldest is talking about buying his first house and my youngest is talking about going off to college. And then there's going to be that awkward probably week or two of my wife just staring at each other at this dinner table going, what do we do? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? I don't even know what to do at this point.
Yeah. Who are you again?
Yeah. I kind of look forward to that season in life. I really do. I think it'll be interesting to relearn each other again and not be so focused on the children. But like the pattern goes, within a short period of time, then we'll have grandchildren. So we'll be back kind of on that path again. But I don't know. I think just letting your kids be who they are, develop what it is that they want to achieve. Like I said, they pretty much kind of know path, not necessarily a job or whatever, but they know where they want to be in life and they know who they are. I think we don't give them enough credit, honestly. Like, we don't let them have a voice enough. And I think that would be probably a fundamental thing, is to let them have their voice, let them say who they are, what they want to do. I mean, if they, like my youngest is talking about designing video games, and it sounds completely crazy to me. Yeah. Because that's just not a path I would have taken. But back to what I said, don't ever let me tell you no. Like, don't let me be the reason to hold you back. Go do it. If that's what you are dreaming of doing, do it. Yeah. I mean, I don't care. As long as you're happy, that's all I care about. So
just because I can't see it doesn't mean I'm not programmed the way you're programmed. So
right. Like, I want to work on cars and sell houses, and that's my path. So the fact that Caleb's doing it, my oldest is doing it, is amazing to me, because I truly didn't think he would follow that path. I thought he would set his own path, and I don't knock it at all. I love it. I absolutely love it. But he's even admitted to me, like, this isn't the end of the game for him. This is just the beginning. So he's going to pick up where I left off, crush it, and then go out and conquer the world.
And that's what you want. You want them to just push it forward, right? They push the legacy that, you just wanted them to push it forward, be better than you were, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me ask you this. If you had to give somebody advice, let's say a younger dad, right? They're in the situation where, when did you get married? How old are you, I should say?
1998.
98.
Yep.
Okay. So you're a younger dad, you're married, you got kids. What is something that you would suggest or recommend that they avoid, or maybe just simply cut out of your life in general? This is a young dad. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's got a family. He's got a kid. He's all right. Figure it out. What do you recommend he stay away from to keep him on a good path?
Where I kind of went off onto I don't know if it was a dark time in my life, but I put work as a priority. And it really, I didn't realize the impact of doing that early on, because I was young and I was going to conquer the world and I was going to do all the things. And my wife was at home taking care of the babies, and I thought that's what you're supposed to do. By the way, ask your wife, because I guarantee she'll say, no, that's not what's supposed to happen. But she blindsided me with an ultimatum. She said, you need to choose a path, and we're either going to be a part of it or we're not. So I was like, holy shit, this just got real. So work for me was that moment that I had to realize, like, I live or I work to live.
Yeah.
I don't live to work. So, in real estate, it's a very tough gig because usually nights and weekends are where most of my work is done. Well, you take that away from the family and you don't have a family.
Yeah.
You don't have a family life. So I've built a career around the fact that I typically don't work nights or weekends, and it surprisingly has worked. At least I have balance. So that family balance is hugely important. Go to the soccer games, be present at the recitals, the dance, whatever. Do all the things that you're supposed to do first, and then figure out how to squeeze work in, and you'll be fine. And it sounds insane, and I know somebody listening to this right now is going to go, "Yeah, I can't do that." You absolutely can. You have one ride on this rock. Do what the hell you want to do. Like if you want to work for the rest of your life and crush it, awesome. But just understand, if you don't have balance, one of those things is going to go away.
Yeah. That's
So,
solid.
Thanks, man.
How do you, so when did you, at what point, so obviously she gave you the, mama better put her foot down.
Mhm.
At what point did you go, okay, I'm going to do this. How do I do this? Like, how did you come up with because work-life balance is something that we throw around out there all the time. Everyone throws it out there. We want a job that gives us work-life balance. That's easier said than done, especially if you're a go-getter, if you're an entrepreneurial individual. I mean, that kind of stuff is easier said than done. So how do you feel like you were able to grasp that, to get to that point, to be like, okay, I'm going to put this here, put that over there. And like, what did you do to get to that point?
I just flipped the switch, man. I literally, that moment, that was it. I was done. Like,
wow.
There wasn't going to be me coming to visit my kids at my mom, or go visit my kids at their mom's house. That wasn't going to be an option. I did not want that. I was a product of that. So I realized the importance of it to my wife. She's an amazing woman. She's absolutely amazing woman.
Yeah.
And she was letting me do what I needed to do, but she reached a point where she was just like, okay, I can't do all this. You need to be a part of this. You need to be home for dinner. Like, sitting at home eating dinner with my family saved my marriage. Literally saved my marriage. So it was so important to her for that to happen, that I just did whatever I had to do. And it was super easy now looking back on it. At the time, I was like, holy crap, I'm giving up my career. But I just explained to my clients literally that same way. My family comes first. I will be home for dinner. If you need to see a house during later hours, we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I probably had a couple people fall off the train because I wasn't at their beck and call. I don't care. It wasn't worth it. That deal was not worth it to me. That commission was not worth it to me. I'd rather sit at home and watch SpongeBob than go out and do something during a time when I couldn't do it.
I love it. That's awesome, man. That speaks volume to your character. And I mean, because like I said, I know people personally, they just have that entrepreneurial spirit where it's like, all right, I'm busting through the door and there's going to be some casualties. So that speaks volume for your character, man. I think that's awesome. Is there anything else? I'm just going to leave it freestyle for you. Anything else you feel like you would want to share for, same thing, guy in your situation, younger guy, your age, when you've had kids, et cetera, that you just want to share with them? Hey, this is my one thing to give you to think about.
Kind of reiterating what I said. I mean, you only get one ride. Figure out what your priorities are, especially when it comes to like raising your kids. Like, what is more important here, and build your life around that, because you brought them into this world. That is your responsibility. You need to take care of those kids to the best of your ability. And if you work hours where you can't be present, it is what it is. But maybe you might want to look at something different, because the job is just that. It's just a job. We can all go out and make money anywhere and do anything to make money. Having your job be the priority in your life it's not worth it. It won't work out unless you are married to a saint. It is not going to work out, I promise, because if she's at home with the kids doing all the things that you should be part of, you're going to miss out on a lot. But there's going to be some issues there, like long-term issues we could do a whole nother call on. And sadly, a lot of marriages can't survive that. They can't sustain that. So you need to figure out exactly what your priorities are and work around that. You know, it can be done. Anybody can do it. It's just a lot of people like to make excuses like, oh, well, my boss or my job or whatever. If your boss or your job or your whatever keeping you away from your family, move.
Yeah.
You ain't a tree. Move. Get out of there.
I like that. I like that. All right. All right. Well, buddy, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out to do this. Like I said, this is something that I feel like I started it just because I think that a lot of guys just don't have a template. They don't have a guideline of how this works. I personally tried all these different fathering styles, if you will. When my kids were born, I thought I was going to be the tough guy that walks in and clean the room, and then I thought I was going to be the guy who was just like literally watching 80 or 60s and 70s show. I thought I was going to be distant dad, like, all right, dad's home, I'm going to put my boots down and go in the room, nobody bug me. I just tried all these ridiculous things and all because I had no template. I didn't know what it meant to be a dad. I have no concept of it. So I feel like just having this as a resource for, new dads, even, if you're already a dad, you just know there's somebody else in your situation who is, running through the same thing you're running through. And here's how they're handling it and how it's working. So hopefully it'll help one of them,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm glad you're doing this because I didn't have anything like this either. So trial and error.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. You just pick them up real fast so nobody see them and dust them off. That's that's how you do it.
My kids may or may not have run into a doorway.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, man, I appreciate you doing this. I'll let you get back to your evening, but I can't thank you enough again for sharing your story. I mean, I'm sure, the podcast benefits from having your story and having, learning how you and the missus made it work. And I mean, just listening to the way you talk about your kids, the admiration you have for them. I mean, it walks right in line with the way I feel about my kids, and I'm sure many people feel about theirs. So it's awesome. I'm proud to say I know another great dad out there, because that's a huge deal. And so thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely, buddy. Well, hey, you have a great night with the family, and we'll catch up soon.
Sounds good.
All right, bud.
See ya.